This is a drawing I found, and I was surprised to note that I was 13 years old when I drew it. So it shows an interest in plants and flowers, which I still have. Now this is a work of art. I think I've actually started drawing much sooner than that, even as a little child. The next picture is a self-portrait. Okay, a self-portrait that I did in my sophomore year, and I did major in art at Wittenberg College in Springfield, Ohio. The picture, next picture is I learned about abstract art, and this was my attempt to do it. I called it interior. I think it was the hallway of my sorority house. So abstract, and I think abstract art is very beautiful.
So they know who's narrating.
Yeah. Well, let's go on. We
Cool.
went to Liberia, Africa, and we went on a freighter. There were only about a dozen passengers. We were 6 because we had our 4 children with us, and another missionary family going to a Baptist mission had children too, and there was one Liberian student returning to Liberia. We stopped at the island of Terceira in the Azores to unload some cars, and then we also stopped in Freetown in Sierra Leone, and when we took a ride around, I did this at the ocean, and there are some fishermen working at a boat. So that's Sierra Leone. The next picture was painted from my backyard. We went to a fairly good, new house that had been built for us in Totata, and I could look out over the valley behind it and see this little hut. And the big trees in back were called Devil Bush. They were somehow sacred to the Liberians. They were a little bit of jungle. The next picture shows the village of Wozie. And Wozie had a Lutheran mission church and some Lutheran missionaries. And this is what Jenny Kearns, the missionary's wife, saw from her kitchen window. The picture is not doing too well because I ran out of turpentine and linseed oil and used kerosene to thin my paints. So it's beginning to crack a little, but that was her view. And those, what looked like sticks standing upright, are bath fences. Circular constructions that you go into and take a bath with a bucket of warm water. The next picture was also done in Wozie.
Let me do it from this way. There's a lot of reflection there. That's better.
Yeah, if you can. This is a blind man in Wozie. What he's holding in his hand is a elephant's tail, I was told. He's blind, he's old, he's an elder. When I went to Wozie and visited the Kearns, I had time to paint. That's why there'll be so many pictures of Wozie, done in Wozie. Here's a typical thatched hut, but it's been abandoned, and so has the truck beside it. The next picture is a jungle pool, and the woman's getting water from it. She has a baby on her back. I thought the picture needed to be finished, but actually I think it gives the right effect as is. The next picture I painted recently from a pencil drawing that I did 50 years ago. And this woman is spinning cotton thread from cotton that they grow. The next picture shows what's done with the cotton thread. The men are the weavers, and he is weaving a strip of cloth, and it's rolled up, as you see, under his arm. He weaves some and rolls it up, and they make blankets and shirts and gowns out of it. It's called country cloth, and it usually has a stripe in it, blue or black. The next picture shows a boy sawing wood. He's sawing, and someone underneath is pulling the other end of the saw. And they will make planks. The next few pictures are charcoal drawings. Woman carrying firewood and a baby on her back. Mama Keba was a leprosy patient. The next picture shows a baptism class. They're hearing a teacher, and I was in the back. The only light was from a lantern up in front with the teacher. I did the sketch in the dark and then went home and finished it from memory. The next three pictures are also charcoals. 2 portraits and a picture of Woolsey Village huts. The little baby that either mother or grandmother is holding was born in the Kern Memorial Hospital in Zaza. The next picture goes back to before we went to Liberia. It was done on the street in Philadelphia while Jim was going to medical school, Jefferson Medical College. I have a funny story, I think, from this picture, because I sat there was a row houses, which are typical of Philadelphia, and we were in a row house, and I was painting this picture, and the little children on the street were watching me, and they said, "Oh, that looks like a real picture." And then they said, "You should be an artist when you grow up." I already had 5 children.
I know. What is this?
Now, when I came back and settled in Southampton, I had about 10 or more years in which I did the cover of Steve Breyer's triple book Farm. He sold plants nationally and internationally, and so he did a catalog. This was before you could print them with photographs from your, and he did his in black and white, and I did the inside pictures showing the plants. One of the trees he gave me for my farm, my little farm in Southampton, was this tree, which is a tree from the south, a magnolia tree. And it's still in the front yard of that house. There are some more plant catalog covers. I married Bill Schaffer and lived in Detroit. An Italian friend who was a gardener gave us these peaches. I think I like this watercolor. Then after that year in Detroit, Bill and I moved back to Southampton and traveled a lot. And I have a lot of sketch diaries because everywhere we went, I did some drawings and paintings. My daughter Sarah lives in Plainfield, and this is when Aaron Bashara, son of my goddaughter, Wilma, visited Sarah and her chickens. Bill died, and later I married John Olson, and this is John, a charcoal portrait. Now we're going to go see a few more pictures that are in the front hall. This is the case of, so often happens, the little nest I found was sitting on the table and it was saying to me, paint a picture of me, paint a picture. So I did. And the interesting thing, that picture was put in a show. It was purchased by John and Patty Olson, and of course it was 10 or so years later when Patty had died and I married John, and he had the picture, so we got the picture back. Very carvings, they're very good at carving, and some of the wood they use is ebony and something. They're very heavy, it's very heavy wood. Those rice fanners in the back, they toss the rice, the beaten rice, up in the air, and the wind will blow away the husks of the grains, and then they have the grains for cooking. I'm really pleased to have two handmade pots. The one on the left is cruder than the one on the right. The one on the right is a marvel. It's perfectly round, very beautiful, very thin. The little turtle is a stool to sit on. They sit on mats or sit on the floor. And on the lower shelf, those little dancers and drummers are all made in the lost wax method. And it means that the little figures were made out of wax, and then they are encased in, I think, wet sand or something like that. And then there's a little hole at the top of this, and hot wax is poured, hot metal is poured in and melts the wax, and the wax falls out of the bottom, and you have left the little metal figures that they paint them. And this picture is a portrait I did here in America of one of the boys that was a playmate for Peter at Phoebe, and he came to finish college when the war hit Liberia. He finished college. He's now in Seattle and has a job with Costco. Did when we reached Liberia. This young man visited us, and I think he was a chief's son, and he's wearing one of the robes made out of country cloth, the blue and white stripes. And the next picture I did in church because I saw this girl and I did a sketch of her and went home and finished the sketch off and added the color. So she's a student, a schoolgirl. And the next few pictures, the next three pictures were done here in Massachusetts. One is up at Plainfield, walking in the snow of the forest, state forest up there. The next is the back of the barn, of my barn on Pleasant Street in Southampton. And the next would be a view from my property over to Pomeroy Mountain. In the early spring, the snow hasn't quite all melted. I think they started to plow.